I had a video written, but frankly, this is the happiest I've ever been to trash some of my work, at least in part, because much of what I wrote was related to a motion to dismiss that's now been rendered moot by a jury verdict clearing Kyle of all charges. And normally, I'm not much of a sucker for the emotion of the moment, but in this case, I'll just let the scene speak for itself.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Kyle H. Rittenhouse, not guilty.
Members of the jury, are these your unanimous verdicts? Is there anyone who does not agree with the verdicts as read?
It's nearly enough to pull that single gauge Grosskreutz tear down my face as well, but at this point, I've had a couple hours to compose myself, and I don't want to downplay the significance of that moment. At a time when nearly every news story gives you plenty of reason to doubt the system produced some justice. The system operated with respect to the facts and the law, and not the whims of the mob or their media stokers. And I've had plenty of doubts myself in recent years, so I'm taking some time this weekend to appreciate that for whatever its faults or treachery, we're not living in a country that's gone full Binger. At least not today. But I also won't lose focus on what should be. We can call Friday a good day, and we should. But of course, that term good is only relative to that possibility of the full Binger. And in a truly just country, or at least a country more aligned with justice, the full Binger is never even on the table. This case is never brought because the evidence is so obviously against it, and the people who perpetrated the real Kenosha crimes of August 2020 aren't on the streets to create that situation in the first place. And of course, I'm not trying to be a downer. I just don't want to move on from this case without fully considering all the underhandedness and all the cheating that even made it possible. And that's not even a pessimistic perspective necessarily. That's an encouraging perspective that acknowledges, despite all the misconduct, despite all the scheming, despite all the outright lying, the ideologues still could not beat the truth. What I'm saying is, I won't settle for a country where Binger is just forgotten as a prosecutor who lost some high-profile case. I want a country where Binger is put on blast as a prosecutor who abuses, deceives, and outright lies to appease mob politics. So in pursuit of that country, I won't throw the story I was working on for today in the trash just yet. I want to make sure that we all remember it and that we all have reference to it. Recall all the greatest hits of Binger's abuses in this trial as summarized in the defense's motion for mistrial. He committed, or at least crept on, constitutional violation when he questioned Kyle's Fifth Amendment right to remain silent on arrest during cross-examination. He disregarded a judge's ruling when he asked Kyle about evidence the judge excluded at a pretrial hearing. And of course, recall the ongoing oddities surrounding the allegedly incriminating drone footage that shows Kyle pointing the gun. He says you apparently need the high-res version to imagine seeing that in the video. High-res video that, of course, was not sent to the defense team. And the argument from the defense team was that all of these abuses were so flagrant, they amounted to intentional provocation of a mistrial to try to get another crack at prosecuting Kyle. And even if you want to believe that Binger only accidentally encroached on Kyle's constitutional rights and only accidentally disobeyed a judge's order and only accidentally not only compressed but cropped video evidence to bizarre dimensions and renamed the file, how many accidents add up to intent? There are only so many rakes to step on before it's clear that you're trying to. Case in point, throughout this week, it was revealed that yet another supposed Binger mistake conveniently worked in his case's favor. As soon as the jury deliberated, shockingly, one of the case's biggest mysteries was suddenly solved. Recall after the initial encounter with Joseph Rosenbaum, as Kyle was running down the street toward police, he was attacked by several people. Anthony Huber was the skateboard guy, Gage Grosskreutz was the guy with the Glock, and later the missing biceps, but immediately before both of them, there was the unidentified man known only as Jump Kick Man. The guy who, as his nickname explains, jump kicked Kyle in the head and neck area, prompting Kyle to fire 2 shots that missed, shots that established one of the reckless endangerment charges that Kyle faced. And you may wonder why Jump Kick Man was never charged with assault or battery. Why does he get to jump kick someone who's running away from him? Well, number one, because he was supposedly never identified. That's the story that jurors were sent to deliberation with. But number two, Binger explained a long-established tradition in Wisconsin law.
All he uses is 1 foot.
The first foot is free. It's only the second that's illegal. And besides, Jump Kick Man was part of a company of heroes that night, intervening to stop an active shooter.
Every day we read about heroes that stop active shooters. That's what was going on here. And that crowd was full of heroes.
The same company of heroes that included a convicted pedophile and a convicted domestic abuser and a convicted drunk driving grandma slapper, among numerous other offenses. So even before this latest news, just inferring from the pattern, you could have guessed that Jump Kick Man is not a hero. That and Binger saying anything is nearly conclusive evidence of the opposite's truth. But now we have the confirmation. Jump Kick Man is yet another career criminal who had absolutely no business on the streets that night. According to the Daily Mail, there is no doubt about his identity. Maurice Freeland has admitted to being Jump Kick Man, and he has a decades-long rap sheet including several felony convictions for car theft, identity theft, violating parole terms and escaping custody, as well as numerous violent misdemeanors. Most relevant to what happened to Kyle, if Jump Kick Man is a career criminal, why is he on the streets on that particular night? Well, because despite his nonstop criminality, a Kenosha County judge gave him another probation opportunity. It turns out Jump Kick Man had also jump kicked his girlfriend just prior, or something similar. She said he threw her to the ground, kicked her in the rib cage, and punched their TV. Earlier in 2020, he was convicted of domestic violence battery for that incident. He pleaded guilty, and the terms of that plea agreement put Jump Kick Man on probation, which meant he was out that night to jump kick Kyle too. In the month since, he's been back in court several times and sentenced to jail time in August for probation violations. So obviously, if prosecutors want us to believe that they had no idea who this guy was, we'd have to believe that they never looked within their own offices for the guy that they are actively prosecuting for a number of offenses. And of course, the suspicion doesn't end there. Multiple reports now allege that Maurice Freeland, Jump Kick Man, requested a deal with prosecutors where he would testify at trial in exchange for immunity in his latest charges of drunk driving and domestic abuse. These reports allege that Thomas Binger personally declined that request. It stands to reason that if it happened, Jump Kick Man didn't make this move late into the trial. Indeed, he would have had a great opportunity to do it at his October 29th court hearing. That was the Friday before jury selection and the trial began the following Monday, though as of now, we don't have confirmation of when this request was made, if in fact it was. But if these reports are accurate, when did Thomas Binger know who Jump Kick Man was? And if he did know who he was, did he lie to the jury claiming Jump Kick Man was unidentified? Did Thomas Binger withhold evidence from the defense? Did he withhold the identity of a material witness, knowing that guy's testimony would likely be damaging to the prosecution's case? I see one report that alleges Thomas Binger informed the defense of Jump Kick Man's identity on Thursday, November 11th, which coincidentally was the day the defense rested. That would be damning if true, but I'm very skeptical of that claim, since that would be flagrant prosecutorial misconduct the defense certainly would feature in their motion for mistrial the following Monday if they knew, but they didn't do that. Instead, the defense was only making that allegation that Thomas Binger knew late into this week on Thursday, suggesting they only learned the same time the rest of us did from emerging media reports. But whatever the timing may be, here's another reason to have serious doubt about prosecutors having no idea who Jump Kick Man was. They have all personally prosecuted him. Kenosha County District Attorney Mike Gravely personally prosecuted Maurice Freeland multiple times in 2019. Assistant DA Thomas Binger personally prosecuted Maurice Freeland in the domestic abuse case for which he was given probation and thus out on the street the night he kicked Kyle. At least Binger was the state's attorney at Freeland's initial court appearance. And Assistant DA James Krause personally prosecuted Maurice Freeland in 2016. Now, of course, they prosecute a lot of people. Just because you prosecuted a guy years ago doesn't necessarily mean that you immediately recognize a low-res image of him wearing a mask at night. But consider these factors in totality. Is the fact that Jump Kick Man's identity is suddenly known right after his opportunity to testify at trial expires really just a coincidence? Are these reports of a rejected testimony deal really all just lies? And given all the prosecution's other accidents that just so happen to cut dramatically in their favor, is it reasonable to believe that these prosecutors just accidentally couldn't identify Jump Kick Man or accidentally forgot to inform the defense of his identity? And funny, that accident meant once again excluding evidence that would have been devastating to their case. For months, we've been wondering, if this case isn't self-defense, what would a case of justified self-defense even look like? Would it even exist at all? And thankfully, those concerns have been properly dismissed, at least for the moment. But as this trial developed and concluded, a secondary question emerged. If this isn't prosecutorial misconduct, then what is? And the judge chose not to answer that question, instead deferring to the jury to reach a verdict before he ruled on that motion for mistrial. A wise decision, if only for the fact that it might divert a few pitchforks and torches away from his house this weekend, but I would still like an answer. Did this judge consider Thomas Binger's abuses to be sufficient for a mistrial or not? Because if the answer is not, it's not just your self-defense rights that are threatened. It's your due process rights too. And the security of your freedom and your rights is only a matter of whether a politically motivated prosecutor decides to target you or not. This one may not have been sufficiently skilled, but the next one certainly could be. So if we really value due process in this country, it's not enough just for Binger to lose this case. Binger shouldn't ever enter a courtroom again, except to face charges for reckless endangerment himself, of course. Jack Posobiec put it best. It's not enough to be simply against Bingerism. One must be actively anti-Bingerism. Justice for Kyle is the weekend's party, and it should be. But accountability for the system is the long-term imperative. For the rogue prosecutors, for the media liars, for the mob that created this entire situation in the first place. Justice doesn't simply mean that an innocent man walks, though he should. It means that an innocent man is not charged when the facts don't support it. It means that you aren't lied to believe that he should be. And it means a country of people who value a commitment to the rule of law and due process over their own personal whims and emotions. So yes, by all means, have a drink to celebrate for Kyle today, but save the rest of that bottle for that day. Even if we never drink it, that's kind of the point. It's always about the pursuit, not necessarily the moment. We still have an awfully long way to go. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel. Always appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below, and especially over on Minds. That is at ML Christiansen. You're always welcome to coming out and chat in my live streams. Those are linked down in the description. Looking forward to it. Goodbye.